Next speaker is Aristotle. He will present MindTags, mobile information and orientation system for all. So, hand it over. Thank you very much.
So here, my name is Eric Turner. I'm close to being blind, and that was the reason why I started off in Berlin in 2006 to deal a little bit with what is really accessible for me. So it was due to a very egoistic point of view. Later on, I had a little grow up of a family at a certain place, and I realized that communication is not that obvious. And now I have 2 children, and they talk a completely different language. And when I travel abroad and I don't speak the language, things don't necessarily are as accessible as we always think due to the different levels of communication. And so here we see the major focus we placed. First we placed our focus on blind and visually impaired people, so making points of interest accessible for those, which needs a completely different attitude and approach due to the aspect of really getting descriptive when you want to deliver information. Then we realized, hold on, deaf people, fair enough, they cannot hear, but they can read. That's what I always thought. That's what people always think about blind people, that they can hear. But of course, for me, or can actually do read blind language in Braille. I never learned that language. I think it's fair enough to know how it's done and what it could mean, but my sensitivity is not anywhere near to be able to learn blind language in a reasonable amount of time. And the same is for deaf people. When you're born without any acoustic information input, you cannot read more than a 10-year, 12-year-old person. So therefore, you must display the information in sign language. And what's not very, put it that way, placed in a framework is easy language. People always think, easy language, come on, sit down with my son and we have easy language. That's not the case as well. So what's lacking is, of course, here on this description of the children. Yeah, the children are lacking. And then, of course, we have the wheel maps aspect, of course, people in a wheelchair with pure mobility problems. We realize that design for all is one aspect, but it is so difficult to combine all these elements and different needs and say, okay, we make one text, oh, here we are again. We make one piece, an item of information, and we make it accessible for everyone. It just doesn't work. And so therefore we decided, what's the biggest hurdle and burden for everyone is an app. And I said, I don't want to install an app. I want to make myself really as stupid as possible to really being able to obtain information without actually having to download an app from that museum, that famous building or whatever. So therefore we decided to do the approach without actually working with an app. But we did start with using the sensors. And in 2011 we used NFC technology. NFC technology to transmit information from medicine. So we made medicine talk to you. So you could use an ordinary QR scanner, an NFC scanner, and touch the medicine, and the medicine would talk to you saying, Rotary against infection, I only use it 3 times a day, expiry date, I don't know what. And that was very welcome at the blind scene. I did not really reach the point of being placed into the pharmacy sector, although it is getting more and more into the talks now in combination with QR. But NFC is not that expensive than just a QR code to be printed in. The printing of a QR code doesn't help the blind either because you don't know where it's located. There are some great scanners, it's called the Shopping Fox, and it's about 600, 700 grams of weight, and you must take that to the supermarket and then you can scan products or in rather industrial way. But and we, in general, we wanted to get away from actually adding on extra tools to evaluate and update with a data bank just for shopping. And the next step was because it was so highly welcome, we applied for various awards and stuff, and won some prizes. That was good, but we decided let's go to something ugly and take the QR code and add it on to our app at that point. Because we wanted to give it away and make it accessible for a lot of people. Then we met a few people, and then we said, and a good cooperation partner of ours, and we added on the beacon technology. And slowly but surely we try to figure out where can we use what technology. And at the end of the day, we had a content management system on the one hand, where you basically have a toolbox, basically, where you can simply say, I want to add an audio file, I want to add text, picture, or motion. And then you have the block of sensors, which can help you to access those. And then you have your smartphone. I was just taught that it's called physical app, physical web. So the beacon actually at a stone, and they can be displayed without actually having the app. And the good thing is that the QR code as well as the NFC doesn't necessarily apply to have the app itself, as our app. Because our app is just really, those who really need it, they can specify I'm handicapped in my mobility, or I'm handicapped in my vision, and so therefore I get this specific additional information about that. So we had some prototypes being now implemented. We have a building in the University of Potsdam, which we make the doors talk to you, where we learned what is necessary and what is cool to have and what is just joyful, funny thing to experiment with. We figured out that the aspect of actually being able to display and able to download information was very welcome by the students. That we find really interesting. Also to import the content directly, and not actually having to have an app was good to identify doors and information. We did a few other things. Currently, we did the University of Popular Arts here in Berlin, next to the University of Arts, where we implemented also some sensories, beacon, NFC, QRs. That's how this screaming orange token looks like. It has a tactile indication in profile letters, and which indicates you can either scan a QR code or just tap to get the NFC information, and it also has the information indicated in Braille. And we have also here an adventurous playground, the first inclusive adventurous playground here in Berlin, where we also then started displaying orientation. We used, I think we all know the problem about go left, go right, okay, good, now turn around, bingo, and it just doesn't work anymore, unless you use acceleration sensories. But we figured out that the blind don't move when they want to obtain information. So it's not always this moving aspect in a consistent run, but you stand still, and then you maybe turn just 45 degrees to the left or to the right, and it all just messes up the whole. So you try to teach, either you try to teach your consumer or you try to teach a system. What we did was we worked in the invisible tactile indication and sensory indication. It's a good thing to have, and I admire that, and I wish everything would be just invisible. But we needed something to place that person in the position where we actually then can really say, it's to the left, or at 2 o'clock you find, and to get this indication, and that's what we used at the playground. In current days, we know that there are fairy tales being displayed, which we found also very interesting. It's not so much used to orientate anymore. Apparently there are not so many handicapped people on that playground, but moms and children who just maybe want to listen to a fairy tale, but that's fair enough. And at the end of the day, that's the Pergamon Museum, the Museum of Islamic Arts. One of the 4 or 5 museums at the Pergamon Museum complex, where we did a proper iPad application, which we also made accessible via QR and beacon. What our major hurdles were and still are, were mentioned already by some speakers beforehand, is always to get the right balance when it comes to sensors. I mean, fair enough to use sensors, and I think it's a great thing that we have those sensors now. But now we're currently building in for auto navigation and orientation the GPS sensor, which we had already in 2008, another project we did, where we had a similar experience when we used it for traveling with the Busline 100. The Busline was just driving too fast and it just didn't work with the GPS signal. It sometimes was 1.5 kilometers away. So detecting via GPS was a big problem for us. We're currently want to use GPS, but then when we figured out what it means for proper usage, you have to switch on Bluetooth Low Energy, NFC, GPS, and then you have your voice over or talk back being switched on as well. Your battery will not last very long. And at last, IMV, on the one hand, iOS, because about 90% of the blind users do use the iOS system to get mobility or accessibility in general. And I love that system because it only gives you maybe in total, forget the 4S, 5, it has maybe 6 or 7 frameworks, and they're all in a consistent quality, and that's good. When you go to Android, you don't probably get a proper, sometimes the Bluetooth low energy sensor of an Android phone is super, and other times another system, I don't know whether it's Sony or whatever, we just tested recently, it was so difficult to place it into a proper level of getting the interaction we wanted to get at that place of interest. And we're more focused on iOS currently, and than I am Android. The S series is fair enough. I think we like the S series currently a lot, but so far we're facing that problem as well. Our next projects will be specialized on blind and vision impaired, the Blind Association here in Berlin, which we started off as a prototype 2 years ago, but which we finalized now, and where we learned a lot. And now we're going to move towards Marburg, which is the capital of blind and visually impaired people for the Blind Institute, where we want to give some community there. And yeah, that's basically what we're doing with our information system. We got very far away from saying we are able to navigate and want to give more an orientation aspect to being able to help yourself around and give assistance, not to a level where you say, hold on, you're half a meter away from where you're supposed to walk. But we are still facing a lot of problems, especially data security in the sense of never mind. There's still a long way to go, but we just found it a year ago now, and so we have an investor now, and it's fine, and we can still do our research. That's our scope, and if you are interested in inclusive participation for all, feel free to contact us. Thank you very much.